back, Mick. Just to remind you, today I'm speaking to Chief Inspector Mick Roffe of North Yorkshire Police regarding Operation Obtundity, which took place in January this year. This exercise was a multi-agency event to really test the joint responses of the emergency services to a series of terrorist incidents here in York and at the Minster. And in this final part, we're going to find out about the benefits of the exercise and how organisations take learning from an event like this. Hi again, Nick. Thank you for that really interesting insight into Obtundity and what happened on the night itself, on the rainy, inclement night itself. It would be really great to hear about kind of how you capture learning during an event like this, and how you can kind of like share that across the wider organisations.
Yeah, great. So I think we talk about the night in itself, but in reality, as a 12-month planning phase, that's really, really important. And actually, there's lots of learning that comes from that, because that planning phase looks like, a multi-agency approach. There's 40, 50 people that meet on a regular basis from key organisations within the area, not just blue light services, other key partners that are going to help facilitate and deliver the exercise, who probably would be involved in it on the night. So we look at the whole planning phase. The execution phase of the exercise is important in the week leading up to that and the night as well. We then look at what goes on in the exercise, and crucial to the learning outcomes for this exercise is a debrief. So on this occasion, we've got College of Policing support. So we've got support coming centrally from the UK to deliver a debrief in a couple of weeks' time to really understand and dig into the details around the planning phase, what happened on the night. And then we take from that debrief, we generate a report with our own learning outcomes. And then that sits within each organisation at a strategic level. North Yorkshire Police has an organisational learning meeting. It sits within that meeting and has Chief Officer oversight. And basically, we look to then create plans to deliver the learning outcomes, and they're actioned and held to account in that way. So looking back across the whole exercise phase, in a few months' time, we'll be able to say, this is what we did and how we planned. This is what we did on the night. This is what happened. This is what the debrief generated. This is what we did organisationally. This is how we've improved. This is how we're better. So it's a long process, and it has to be. But that's the journey of how we evolve as organisations and work together, really.
And you mentioned the rain in our second part. Was that what sort of challenges does weather like that cause? I mean, you can't control the weather at an actual event, can you?
Yeah, I think all best laid plans it's widely known in policing, definitely, that as soon as the exercise sets off, all the plans go out the window. So we'd planned all that week on the run up, and we had obviously storms landing within the UK at the time. York is terrible for flooding. That was starting to impact where we'd accommodated people, where people we'd planned for these 300 people to park. There was all sorts of things that were having a kind of a knock-on effect in the run up to the exercise. But over the weekend, I sat on a local gold group where the Met Office sit in and report and said, look, your winds are probably going to drop. You're going to have gusts to probably about between 5 and 15 mile an hour at most on the early part of the evening, but it'll be dry and it'll be fine. So some of the barriers that we'd set up for the exercise had to be screened because we were using counter-terrorist police, so we're using secret tactics that can't be publicised, really. So you've got your counter-terrorist specialist firearms officers operating within the Minster. That needs to be covered off from the public as best we can, because we don't want to show people how we respond in this way, because we don't want the wrong people to get hold of that information. But you put a screen on fencing and it becomes a sale. So all the fencing went out. I think the exercise was due to start at 1900 hours. At 5 till I was stood out. The rain was pouring. My hat blew off. I nearly got blown over. And then the gazebo that I was stood next to took off like a air balloon down High Petergate, which I grabbed onto. All the fencing fell over. And, well, it was a disaster, really. And then within 10 minutes, we picked all the fencing up. We had to cut some of the sheeting off. And the rain went away, the wind went away, and we had a great exercise weather-wise. So yeah, some of the challenges on the night you can't really cater for, and you have to just deal with spontaneously and crack on with. And we can't really, all we can do to plan and improve on that for better next time is, we can't do anything really different. We've just got to deal with the weather as it comes, and that's the nature of the job that we do.
And that is so interesting, isn't it? Because actually, that challenge isn't a challenge that you would necessarily have in the case of a real event, because it's actually all the mechanisms that you're putting around it because it's an exercise. So not only are you having to think about what you would do if this was a real event, you're also having to manage behind stage and all of that kind of backstage infrastructure as well. So gosh, yeah, I can imagine that makes it doubly challenging. So thinking about that learning, which is really interesting, kind of how you take that learning forward. Do you then carry on with that learning, kind of collaborating on learning in that multi-agency context? So do you kind of continue to talk to the partners about learning and moving forward with planning, or kind of or do you just wait until the next time you're going to do an exercise?
No, we look to kind of harness this debrief information now, really, and we need to start. That's the purpose of the exercise. We're not going to wait and do another exercise and get to the same position as we were last time. We've got to kind of move on and benefit now from where we are. So, without going into too many details around what the JESIP principles, which is Joint Emergency Services Interoperability Agreement principles, which means that's why they publicise, it's open source, and that's the rules that we operate by. We exercise those rules within this Obtundity space, and we've got development needed there. We absolutely have. We do work together in areas of in blue light response. We always work together as three organisations in general terms, but responding to this incident is a niche response, a specialist response, and we found probably some issues around that interoperability and that ability to communicate with each other. And if I'm being, I think the debrief will draw out that each service was still quite focused on doing what they needed to do in isolation. So that is concerning, but it's a great opportunity for us to grab that, capture it in a debrief, and harness it and drive training. We do train jointly on a regular basis, but we need to look at how we train jointly in response to specialist incidents like this.
Amazing. Yeah, no, really interesting. And as you say, it's in doing the exercise that it enables you to see where you need to focus in on the training. So it makes, it makes perfect sense.
The exercise is a real reality check on that.
Mick, I think that probably draws us to a conclusion. So it's been absolutely fascinating to find out more about you, more about exercise obtundity. I think I got there in the end, and how you kind of take learning from a joint agency exercise like this. So thank you massively for your time and input. It's been really interesting, and I hope to see you again.
Thanks, Becky. Cheers.